Before you see it, you hear it. That sound. It's lived inside records for decades, across genres, across cities, across generations. And most people don't even know where it comes from. They just know it feels familiar. When people talk about the SSL 4000, it's usually framed through rock records, big studios, big budgets, big commercial rooms. And that story is true, but it's not the whole story. There's another lineage. There's another lineage, one that didn't come from stadium rock or glossy pop, one that shaped black music, black culture, rhythm, repetition, control. This isn't about credit or calling anything out. It's about recognition. Because long before people talked about the SSL sound, it was already being felt. In studios where sound wasn't decoration, it was structure, where the desk wasn't just a tool, it was part of the language. This episode exists to trace that lineage, not as a history lesson, not as a spec sheet, but as an emotional timeline to understand why this console mattered here and why its influence still hasn't left the room. Who took it and made it theirs?
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
I remember the first time I heard a Dr. Dre record properly. I was a teenager, still figuring out music, still listening more than understanding. I couldn't explain it, but I knew immediately that something was different. You could hear Dr. Dre from a mile away. Before you recognized the artist, before you clocked the era, before you understood anything technical, there was a way to it, a presence, a sense that the record occupied more space than everything else around it. At the time, I didn't have the language for it. I just knew it felt bigger, and that feeling wasn't accidental. By the late 80s and early 90s, Dr. Dre was shaping a sound that will define an entire generation of hip-hop. And when you look at the studios around him during that period, the SSL 4000 begins to appear as part of the environment where that sound is being built. At Can-Am Recorders, headquarters for Death Row, the SSL 4000 E-Series sat at the center of sessions that produced the Chronic, helping shape the G-Funk sound that defined West Coast hip-hop. According to engineers and producers close to those sessions, the SSL 4000 E-Series was Dre's first real introduction to SSL consoles. At the exact moment hip-hop was becoming something larger, more defined, more deliberate. You can see it in the footage, you can see it in the rooms. Dre wasn't working in isolation, he was building a system, and the artists who came through that system carried the sound outward. From Snoop Dogg, Eminem, 50 Cent, and The Game. Each of them emerges from a studio culture where the SSL 4000 is present, not highlighted, not advertised, just there, under the hands of engineers and producers doing the work.
You know, when you watching Dre work, you know, he works analog, he works on a big mixing console.
By the early 90s, hip-hop was expanding. The rooms got bigger, the sessions got longer, the records carried more weight, and in those rooms, the SSL 4000 is already there. It sits beneath the work, present across sessions where the sound of a generation is being shaped. The desk is there while records are written, while vocals are cut, while mixes are shaped and pushed into the world. And through Dre's influence, that environment becomes familiar across an entire generation of artists. Looking back now, that difference I heard as a teenager wasn't just a vibe, it was translation. The SSL 4000 wasn't just used, it was absorbed into a way of working. And that way of working spread. After hip-hop, the story doesn't jump forward, it moves sideways, across the Atlantic, into sound system culture, into dub.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Before there was polish, there was construction. In 1970s Kingston, pioneers like King Tubby and Lee Scratch Perry didn't just mix records, they dismantled them. They took the rhythm, bass, and drum and stripped everything else away. The engineer stepped forward. The version was born. That spirit crossed the Atlantic with the Windrush generation, landing in London. Among them was a young boy from Guyana, Neil Fraser. They called him Mad Professor.
Yes, this is Mad Professor. You're in tune to the dub lesson, all right?
While others chased sound systems, Fraser chased circuits. By 10, he built his own radio. By 20, he was building his own studio. In 1979, Ariwa Sounds was born. His first desk wasn't an SSL. It was handmade, 4 tracks, spare parts, obsession. This was the front room revolution.
And finally, when I came to England, I got into building mixing desks and dabbling with like 4-track machines. And, I taught myself studio techniques.
He was preparing for something larger. He needed a machine that could match his imagination. That machine was the SSL 4000. In the 80s and 90s, it defined the expensive sound of British rock and pop. But when Mad Professor sat behind it at Ariwa, he didn't chase polish, he chased impact. The SSL inline architecture and routing power gave him control over chaos. If Dre used the SSL to build a flawless wall of sound, Mad Professor used it to cut through that wall, to open space, to carve echo, to stretch bass into architecture. On the SSL, the version became orchestral.
So you could get any song that's in your head, you could arrive to. And yeah, I'm very proud of it. So, roll on, dub on.
The SSL 4000 at Ariwa still stands, not as decoration, as instrument. In that room, electricity becomes atmosphere. From Compton to London, from construction to deconstruction, this was the machine that gave engineers scale. This is the trace, this is the dub, this is the SSL effect. The SSL 4000 had already moved beyond genre. It became a constant inside rooms where black music was being shaped at scale. Engineers like Young Guru, working alongside artists such as Jay-Z, Beyonce, Rihanna, and Kanye West. From dub to hip-hop, from soul to modern R&B, that lineage continued into how records are still made today. Eventually, SSL did something different. They distilled that lineage, that channel strip, the way of shaping sound, and they released it as the SSL 4000 Revivals. I have one here, and if there's any honest way to answer that question, what the SSL sound actually is, it starts here. So, what is the SSL sound? That's snap. Wow.
I clasp my hands to Jah, I pray. We died too soon to live with hate. Let's dance, let's laugh, let's celebrate. We died too soon to live with hate. Let's dance, let's laugh, let's celebrate.
Beautiful.